Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today, we will look at how to parse the JSON output from a web API within your application. At the end of our last video, we had successfully pulled back information using a web API from the Breaking Bad API website. What we're going to do today is we're going to take this output and we're going to parse it to enable it to be more human readable. So we'll want something to parse our JSON, something that gets this back in something that's a bit more readable format. So what we'll want to put in here is something to perform the parsing. The result's coming back quite nicely, but we'll want to parse it. Now what we might want to do first of all, so we can actually see what's coming back, before we do our parsing routine, is to get this into a text file. So let's just use one of our existing functions and we will throw this result to a text file. So all we're doing is we're going to append to the file doesn't exist, so we're going to append the result into the file. So if we try running that now, connects quite happily, and what we should have in our output is we do indeed have an output star file. And if we have a look at that, there is our text. Now, what we will probably want to do is to chop up the string, since the curly brackets appear to delimit the JSON, and if we chop it up like so, if we can achieve that, that will be much more readable. And in that format, it would be much easier to parse the values out. So if you were looking for a specific piece of information. Now it's not, by the looks of it, delimited entirely by commas, because we do have commas inside square brackets. And we do have information inside quotes. So there are a couple of ways of actually doing this. So let's have a look at our code then. We're passing the result straight to our function to parse the JSON. So let's create this new function and let's see what we can do. Right, as all this appears to be in sections, I think we'll need some local variables to handle this. We'll have a couple of variables to handle sections, and we'll have an input variable so we don't overwrite str result. We'll need something to keep track of the fact whether we're inside brackets or whether we're inside quotes. So another couple of Boolean variables for that. Which is fine. We may have to read this character at a time, so we'll have a string value, which will be the character we're actually reading. And as we're going to be going through it maybe one character at a time, we'll have a little work variable for our for next loop. Now, as we're going to be putting the information out, we may as well make use of the very useful and quite fast string builder. This we covered in a previous video, which is a very nice way of actually adding to strings. So this prepares our SP output variable, and first thing we'll do is we'll make sure it's nice and clear using the clear method. And I doubt we're going to be much more than 5,000 characters back, so we'll just prep it for speed. Now, if we looked at our file again, we've got things in curly brackets, either starting or ending, So I think we want to replace the curly bracket with a curly bracket and a carriage return there, and a carriage return and a curly bracket down here. So a couple of quick replace commands would handle that nicely. So we're going to replace the curly bracket with the curly bracket and carriage return line feed. And for the trailing one, we want to replace the closing curly bracket with a carriage return line feed and the closing curly bracket. So that handles the beginning and the end. And since in this input string we now have some carriage return line feeds, we will do a for next loop. And we're using the parse count command to work out how many carriage return line feeds there are. Now we know there's at least 2, so there'll be 3 sections in this particular one we're doing. In other API calls there may be more, so that'll handle our sections. And we'll want to use our section variable to pick up the content of that section. And we can use the parse command to do the slicing in that one. So we're going to put into section from the input string parsed on the carriage return line feed for the section we're actually doing. So that's fine. And depending on what we actually find in that section, in our first section we're going to find just this. So we can pick those up quite happily because we'll take them verbatim and put them straight to the output. So we're going to test, so we use a select on this one. So if we get a opening bracket, a curly bracket, or if we get a curly bracket, close bracket, what we want to do here is a straight addition to our output. And we can use the add method for that. And we'll tack on a carriage return line feed in that one. It's SB output. Well, that's fine. So if we get that, then we don't need to go any further, so we'll iterate on that. On the for. Which is fine. Now we need to actually handle the are we inside or outside of brackets. So we'll want to first of all initialize these. Since at the moment we'll say we're not inside, and we'll do the same for the quotes. That's fine. And now in our section we'll want to step through the str section variable 1 character at a time. So this is another for next loop. So we're going to do from 1 to the length of str section. So if it's 1,000 characters long, we're going to step through this 1,000 times. So we'll pick up the first character using $, and we're looking for the character we're pointing at for just a single character. Now this could be any of these characters, so we'll need to do tests on quotes, tests on open brackets or close brackets, and commas. And if we handle all of that, it should be okay. So we need to test on what character type we've actually got. So if we have a double quote, now if we have a double quote character, the question is, are we actually inside the quotes, in which case this will be a closing quote, or not? So we'll need a test. And we'll test the inside quote. So will that be inside a quote or not? Now if we're inside a quote, then we can set inside quote equal to false. We're just closing the quote. And if we're not, we'll set it to true. That way we'll know exactly where we are. And regardless of whether we are or whether or not, we will then add this to the output using our add method again. And the other thing we wanted to handle was the open brackets. Now if we are opening a bracket, then we can quite happily set the open bracket to true, because the fact we are inside one. And we can do another output. We'll just output this character again and add it onto our output. And if we're closing a bracket, we want the same kind of logic, only this time we are false. Well, that seems quite good. Now the other one we wanted to handle was the commas. In our file we wanted the comma here to be the end of this line, but we didn't want to do that for the commas here. So if it's inside the quotes or inside the brackets, we want that comma just to be treated as a character, whereas here we're treating it as a delimiter. So a little bit of special handling on commas. So we need to do another if, and if we're inside a bracket, if we're inside a bracket or inside a quote, then we'll fire this out. But if these are false, then we will still put it out, but we will tack on to the end of it a carriage return and line feed. And if we get anything else, I think all we have to do here is just output it without any special handling. And that gets us to the end of our select. And by the time we get to the end of this section, I think we will output just a carriage return line feed. And at the very end, we have built up. That doesn't want to be in there. That needs to be right up at the top. So we've been building up the SB output. Now it's what we're going to return to the calling function. So we'll use the string method to return the string. Now let's just try compile. What have we missed? Oh, we haven't actually set up str selection. Str section. No, don't need an ampersand there. Right, it's compiling quite cleanly. Okay, if we try that now, and we run our program, and that does look a lot easier to read on screen. We appear to be parsing it quite happily. We're getting each named element coming up quite nicely, and the commas inside quotes and brackets are appearing where they should be, and that seems fine. So let's try it with a different API. Now we can try it with a different character quite happily. And again it comes up quite nicely. If we look to see what other APIs we can actually do, we're using characters. Let's see what else we can actually do. Let's try that one, where we're pulling back anybody with the first name of Walter. Go back to our code. So we try running that one. And that's appeared quite nicely. We have two sets of curly brackets here, one for the first character and one for the second character, and our parsing appears to have picked up quite nicely. And it has pulled out each element of our JSON without problem. Now, while this isn't entirely completely JSON parsing, the text is now in a format you should find it much easier to read the data out of, because it is delimited by a character on line feed, and you could search quite happily for the control word you're after. For example, pull out the birthday, and pulling back the birthday would allow you to actually take that entire string, parse it by the colon, and pull out the information in quotes. Not difficult. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.